welcome everyone to a live recording of Business of Hype. I'm your host, Madrell Stinney, editor-in-chief of Hypebeast, and today I'm joined by tax expert Lisa Greene Lewis. I'm also here with the co-founders of Who Decides War, Ev and Téla, and then also Kody Phillips, the designer and founder of Kody Phillips as well. How are you guys doing?
I'm good.
Well,
We're good.
So before we dive into the brands, maybe we can kind of start at the very beginning. So if you can, where did your journey in fashion begin, and when did it shift from a creative passion into a real business?
So I'm Ev. I grew up in a tailor shop in Long Island. My dad and my uncle had a tailor shop called Alteration and Consultants. And they're both from Barbados. And then my grandmother and my grandfather were seamstresses. I also recently found out that my other grandmother from my mom, well, my mom's mother, was also a seamstress. So it's just a lineage of like sewing and all that type of stuff. But I always like to dress and like present myself in a way that no one else could. So it was kind of like a cloak in high school. But then I guess people started vibing with like the fits or whatever. So I started making clothes, and then one day I met Téla.
I'm Téla. I'm also one of the co-founders of Who Decides War. My relation to clothing or fashion in any way was my mom taught me how to sew when I was younger, around like 9, 10. And we sewed from a place of not having much. And she used to, like, her gift to us was to make pajamas with us. So with us kids, I'm one of 6, so you can imagine it's a lot of pajamas. And so she used to teach us, and we would go to Joann Fabrics and get the fabrics, and the patterns were like 60 cents, and we would like go get them, the basic patterns to be able to sew, and we would choose out our funky fabrics or whatever, and we would make those. So that was the first time that I really had any kind of introduction to that world. And from there, grew up, went to college, and was in school for psychology, and definitely did not love it. And then I went home for a semester to like figure out what I was gonna do, and I was drawing a lot and realized that I could draw and sketch and kind of freehand and things. And so then I went back to school, tried it for like a month, absolutely just dropped out and never stopped drawing and sketching. And then, linked up with Ev, and the rest was history.
Yeah, that's kind of my story too. I've done it since like 13, just because didn't have much. I went to a Catholic school as a kid, so I had to wear a uniform. And I saw Ryan Seacrest on American Idol, and he was wearing like some jeans and like a sports jacket or something like that. And I thought it was crazy driven. That was awesome, you know? So I was like, I'm gonna try and make clothes, because I couldn't draw or anything. And I really wanted to one-up my older sister who could draw. So I just started making like snapbacks and stuff, like vintage snapbacks, the Don C ones with the custom brim.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. So I go to the thrift store, pick up like a watch band and an old hat, and I would watch some Jacob Keller videos, and I would super glue a hat together and sell it to kids at high school. And then I just kept doing it. And here I am.
And Lisa, how does someone become a tax expert? Tell me a bit about like how you got into the...
Oh, my story's different. Weird, okay? I started doing taxes. I had a job in high school, and so I did my own taxes, and it was like easy for me. It wasn't hard, and then some of my relatives realized that I could do taxes, and back then, you could get what was called a C-Tech license and charge people to do taxes. So I did that, and then I started going to college for accounting, and I did concentration tax. So that's where it all started, but it's different. I just always had the ability to break down taxes, and it was easy for me to understand, and I loved helping people save money.
And now, going back to Ev and Téla, Ev, before you guys started Who Decides War, you also had Murder Bravado. You also had a few other brands as well, too, right? Yep.
Yeah, so the first brand, we were talking to Kody about this, was called Lease on Life Society, and I don't know where that name came from. But yeah, it was just something I started because when I went to school in Elmont, Long Island, New York, there was this like group of kids who came to Soho and hung out with like Pharrell and like people like that. And I was like, I want to hang out with Pharrell. I was like, so I guess I got to start making clothes. So that was just an iteration of something that I had within me, and I just started selling sweatshirts for $80 in like 2011, which was pretty crazy because that's what a BBC sweatshirt costs. But I was like, if I want to be like that, I gotta emulate it to the best of my ability. And that had its time and place for sure. And then when we started at Bravado, I say we because Téla was so instrumental in that. And it was cool times. We were definitely bootstrapping a lot, but it taught us how to be fiscally responsible from a young age.
And when it came to starting the brand, was there like a guiding principle or idea that really informed what you guys became to do with Who Decides War?
For Who Decides War, it's really just redefining Americana through the lens of people of color. So everything prior to that was just kind of getting to that vein, but when we started Who Decides War, it's like, okay, that's the focal point of the brand, and that's what we're going to communicate with everything that we do.
And for Kody, having a brand named after yourself, I'm sure that's like a lot of pressure to put on yourself. So, when you were thinking about doing an eponymous label, was there any sort of like idea that you wanted to bring to life to truly represent who you are as a designer?
No, that was a hurdle I got over like really quick. 'Cause I'm not clever like that. I can't think of a name that's gonna stand my entire lifetime. So just Kody Phillips. Like it's just me. I can carry that forever, and it can mean whatever you want. And I don't know. I like it.
And then for Lisa, so for early stage entrepreneurs, what are the first financial or legal steps they should take once they decide to launch their business?
So one of the first steps, you have to figure out what type of business entity you want to be. And I would say people just starting out, typically they're self-employed, which that's fine. A lot of people try to jump into, they're like, I have a business, so I need to be an LLC. But they're thinking that because they think those are the only entities that get deductions for their business, when that's not true. So I would say, if you're just starting out, it's fine to be self-employed. You're still gonna get those deductions that are relevant to your business expenses. But then there's also, you wanna see if you wanna change to an LLC. You could be a single member LLC, which is the same as self-employed, or designate as an S corp. And so the difference with that is, like, once you start making money, you can avoid paying self-employment taxes, so there's benefits in that way. And then I would say definitely when you're starting a business, you want to separate your business expenses from your personal expenses to keep everything, separate, so you're not trying to figure that out at tax time.
And for the group here, how did you guys decide to, you guys are all S corps, correct? All right, so how did you decide to be an S corp? Was that through someone that told you to file as one, or did you have to learn the hard way?
It was just about the benefits and what was offered versus an LLC, and how there were a lot of, just certain breaks that were more tailored towards our company as we were growing.
And take us back to like the early days. Do you guys remember like the first product that really put your brands on the map for Who Decides War, and then for Kody?
Well, if we want to go back, I guess with Bravado, there was these "Do you think I'm crazy" jeans. It was said, "Do you think I'm crazy?" And it was just like a conversation we were having, and I was like, she probably thinks I'm nuts. So I'm like, I just went with it. But for Who Decides War, there's been a litany of things that I feel, if you see it on the street, people would know that is Who Decides War. Like anything with a stained glass is us.
And then for Kody, I would imagine the lasso, or you're also like a pantaloon champion.
Yeah, I've been the guy for like a couple of different things. It started out as like paint jeans when I was doing it in-house. So I was like the coated wax denim guy. I was the straps guy. I was the crazy zipper dude. I was the pocket guy for a while, and now I'm the lasso guy. So we've had a few hit products. The very, very, very first huge one was the curved jeans. And that sold incredible, and that was when we started taking it really, really seriously, right before we moved up to New York and decided to try and be for real. But now it's the lasso shirts and the ripped and Kodys. So, yeah.
So when you guys both had like a product that, just kind of blew up overnight, what were some of the financial lessons that you learned along the way to really make the brand something that can last forever?
I really feel like it was just about making sure that the virality was meeting the velocity. So we really needed to make sure that when it was trending or whatever we had the viral moment, that we were properly, the biggest financial lesson is like not to let it pass, I think, with regard to that specifically. So if it's going and it's going crazy, you know that it's a moment for you to be able to sustain your business a little bit further. So not, if you have anything that you can invest in making a run of that and making it quickly and having it be available quickly to a wider consumer, that would be the number one thing I could say. It's a major financial lesson. Take a mini hit for a big reward. So that's what I could say financially has been something. When we did the jeans with Off-White, for example, we had those were already our signature fits. So it was really nothing for the consumer that was watching the Off-White runway to be able to tap in with our website and be able to shop our denim because it was already our silhouette. We had just lent that to a larger conglomerate. So meeting that was immediately an incredible return that then allowed us to further the art that we wanted to put out into the world.
And kind of the same thing as that. When you have a product like that, it's a moment, and it is fleeting, so you have to really hit it hard, but not too hard that, people get sick of it. So keeping up with the demand is good. Keeping reorderability, and when you sell out really fast, it's nice to bring it back, but also bring a new colorway and test different styles of it. So the curved jeans, you could try curved shorts, a curved hoodie, and I did do that. None of them worked as well, so you guys probably didn't see them. But yeah, you can try that out and kind of make that a signature along the lines and just keep pumping that out and prepare your next product for it and get the costs as exact as possible. Because you're going to sell thousands of them over the next year or whatever. You want to know every single penny that's going to cost, and then maybe you can, expand it to something else in the future. So get the price and keep it in stock and know it's a moment and hit it.
I would like to add one thing. It's like, if you know you have a banger and you know you can't make it, don't show it until it's ready to sell, because someone else will come and see it and do it, and you'll be left with your thought and idea that's worth nothing.
Even like our staff members that we work with, our team members, if they have things that they're working on, we encourage everybody to have their own thing. Like at Who Decides War, we want everybody to use our studio as a resource and build your own thing and market that and learn, because at the end of the day, you're learning how to also, lend your footing towards right back to us. But we always make sure that it's always has to make sure that it always goes back to that. So, yeah.
Now, Lisa, if a brand takes off overnight, what are some things that these founders should do to prepare for tax season?
Yeah, so like they mentioned, you should make sure that you have like the materials, your costs for your income, and then also as your business is growing, like, do you have the space for it, to produce it? Do you have the equipment? And just thinking about equipment, you can deduct your business equipment that's directly related to what you're doing. So under the new tax laws, they made it where you can deduct your business equipment fully in the year that you buy it. It used to be you had to divide it up over the years of its useful life, but now you could, deduct that full amount, and that's up to $2.5 million. So that's something to think about when you're spending all of this money that you need to put into the business.
Now, let's talk about like reinvesting into the brand. Can you recall like the first financial or major financial risk that you took to really help market the brand?
Yeah, we got a daunting order from a huge retailer, and it was about maybe 75% of the money we had saved. So instead of, taking it from the nest egg that we had, we went to a bank and we're like, hey, we have pretty good credit, could we get a loan? So we were able to take out a loan and to finance that production. And really, looking back at the time, it's like we could have went to investors, we could have went to try to crowd raise or whatever you would want to in that time, but I would always say, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, if you have a relationship with your bank, go to your bank first before you go to Ned or Nancy or whoever the case may be, because try to keep your equity as close to the chest is all I'm trying to say. But yeah, that paid off leaps and bounds for us.
I made a bunch of financial risks all the time. I'll risk it all at any time. So, the very first ones was just quitting my job. I had to do it like 3 times because I like, oh, this is way better than a job. And then I couldn't make enough money, so I had to crow back to the job. I'm like, please, can I come back? And then I did that about 3 times until the final time stuck. And then I just lived in like a college-y area with my roommate. But I've always risked my own money. I don't know. And the biggest one was New York. I mean, that was a huge, huge, huge burden. And that was like a few years ago. Very risky, and I'm very glad it paid off. So invest in yourself, guys.
And then on that note as well, too, for the Fall/Winter 25 collection, you also invested majorly into a short film that really took off on the internet. Can you kind of talk about like just how much of a risk that was and rewarding as well, too?
And that one was crazy risky. It was wild. It was like 50 people. It was the biggest production we've ever done. It was so much fun. It was amazing. It cost about like 60-something thousand, which isn't too bad, for like a film production. But we're not a film. We're a fashion house, and it was in the middle of like wholesale. So you had to put a whole bunch of productions in from last season and future season, pay all these people, and also you're not selling anything. So it was very, very, very tight. But the campaign turned out great, and I'm really glad we did it. It paid for itself at least tenfold, yeah.
And for Evan, Téla, can you take us back to the first runway show that you guys did in Paris? How was that? And then also, what did you guys like learn from that as well, too? Or the New York one?
Yeah, let's skip Paris. Let's go.
I don't even remember which one. Okay. Yeah, it's a hell of a lot. I can start by saying that. The boat, the Intrepid, the boat is crazy. The Intrepid, the ship that we did it on was a friend of a friend. My sister happened to be dancing, doing like dance intensives on the flight deck, and so she had a connection to the people, and they are so incredible. Miss Rachel was the person who helped us to get the connection, not the famous Miss Rachel, another Miss Rachel, but she's the person who was handling everything, and she was just so sweet because they normally do weddings and like maybe some tours, and they were fully amenable to us showing there, and they kept on trying to like make it be smaller, and then it was kind of this undeniable thing with regard to the requests and the invites and things. So it was just like they had to do it in their biggest space they had available, and they were so cool about it. But to that kind of world of production and every last thing, I mean, it's crazy because when you don't think you're going to wear these types of hats when you get into something like this. You're making clothes and you're just trying to put a cool pair of pants out, and then the next thing you know, you're running, I don't know, walks in the Intrepid flight deck. Like, it doesn't really make any sense to you, but you just roll with it. But there's a lot of, just with regard to that, I guess, yeah, if that answers your question, just with regard to the production, or as it relates to our brand in general, there are so many different facets that go into it to be able to make that 15-minute moment something super special.
I think a lot of people are oftentimes used to just going to the shows and not really knowing how much money it takes to really invest into one.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That show was...
That was the cheapest show. Yeah, I mean,
that was
unfortunately.
because the venue was, again, it was a dear friend, but
Yeah.
but had we not received that discount, we probably wouldn't have been able to do another show the following year. But that show and our next show, I can talk about our most recent show.
Yeah, absolutely.
That show was
Expensive.
probably 500,000 all in, and that was nuts. And it was, and that was, still with deals. That was still having people that showed up for us, and shout out like Leon Thomas. He just like pulled up and performed. Like, I don't know. And that's the type of stuff. It's like there are people that at the end of the day they're always going to see what you are trying to say, and that it's bigger than like any one person, and that it is a moment. the whole conversation was about Americana and Black Americana, and he is someone who's fully embodying that right now. And so it was, and his whole career has been embodying really like the American dream, so to speak, in Black Americana and in those spaces. And so for him, he really did it off the love. So that was still, $500,000 all in, and. But with that, again, that's where, like, when Kody's talking about investing in yourself, it is marketing, but it's also, like, we were having such a year, and this is also probably another, like, financial thing that happens. Another side effect is that your mental health, when you're trying to put out and meet this demand so often and on such a cycle, it takes a toll on you. And so this past season, the all-in 500 was because we wanted to create something that we didn't even care if it sold. And that was like an investment in our health and as a company and as like a team. We wanted to make sure that we were putting something out where no expense was spared. We had so much fun with it. And we did it because we were so tired of this cycle that we were a part of and have been a part of. And now we're like just kind of figuring it out. We're like, hey, I don't know if we want to do another. Are we gonna? But it was.
We're gonna hire Kody to do a video for us.
The videos are much cheaper. So.
Yeah. So that to talk, I think, overarching about those, what some other side effects can be of this financial kind of rat race. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, Lisa, when it comes to reinvesting into a business, what types of expenses are commonly deductible?
So anything directly related to your business, and of course in fashion, your fabrics, any equipment that you use, website development, your startup costs if you're just starting. A lot of people are surprised to find out, your cars, in some cases they could be fully written off if they qualify as business equipment, which there are some heavy trucks and vehicles that qualify for that.
Like a G-Wagon?
Yeah, there's a list, yes.
With fashion facing some of the toughest years of recent, what have you learned about balancing direct-to-consumer sales versus retail?
Direct-to-consumer can just never fail, Always serve the people, your customers, and balance it with the stores, but probably put the stores on over here, and the customers right here. And just keep doing what you like doing, because once you expand to try and accommodate a bunch of other businesses that are nowhere near your body, it gets muddy, and you start like losing track of stuff. Like she said, her mental health, like it's weird going from just a team of your friends making things you only want to make, just straight to people. Like I just posted online and people buy it, to having to get like barcodes, and like the packaging can't be more than half of an inch too big, or they're going to charge back your order or something like that, and shipping it to like 1,000 places. So balance it, but direct to consumer is king.
For Evan, Téla, can you kind of talk about some of the labor factors that go into the final cost of making a garment?
I think we can start with like sampling costs.
Absolutely.
For sure. But sampling costs are the main thing that we invest in. We want to make sure that it's right the first time. We'd rather measure twice, cut once, than deal with fighting with our factories to move something in a 1/4 inch. Is like we would rather just take that time and really make sure. But with all that costs money and costs time. And we have a great and very dedicated team, but we do have to invest a lot of money in that. But with that just comes, unfortunately, I might be a little crazy some days, but it's really just making sure that those small factors are hit and that it is a product that we're proud of before it goes anywhere else. We were just talking about this when we went into sampling and production costs. We just did a collection this past June, and we were pushed into pre-fall by our friends pre-spring, who said it would be fire, and it wasn't. It was terrible, and we ended up hating the product so much. Ev sat me down one day in the office, and he was like, "Hey, so I hate all of this," and that was we ultimately ended up canceling the whole thing, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we didn't want to. It's at the end of the day, it was like we had to identify. This was the start of, obviously, because we went to September into our Eat, Pray, Love collection, and we did. But really, it was like we had to decide and examine our integrity as designers and artists over trying to make money. And, again, had we not invested in ourselves and stabilized and had that genuine infrastructure, we may not have been able to have survived that, plus, other hits with wholesalers deciding to do whatever works for them. So, yeah.
There's so many great factories overseas that do everything top to bottom. And there's great factories here within the States too. But there's more barriers to entry with a lot of these factories here. So it could be a lot of pulling, tugging with them. And you have to really do the cost benefit analysis with yourself and your team to think about like, okay, if we're gonna do it here, we have to handhold, we're gonna pay more. And if you do it overseas, you're not gonna see the product until it gets here, and you might have to do it 1 or 2 times, but what is that cost gonna be in comparison to the cost of doing it here, which is more expensive? So it's really, with us, we are exploring factory development in the States, and it's interesting. We're trying, but right now it's like, do we want clothes or do we want to wait to get them made here? So.
Now, Lisa, can you explain how losses work when filing taxes and what new entrepreneurs often misunderstand about profits versus losses?
Yeah, so it depends on what type of business entity you are, but if you're self-employed, so your self-employment taxes go on your personal taxes. So if you have a loss, that goes against, like, let's say you have other types of income as well. Like some people just starting off might have another job. So that will go against that income and reduce your taxes. If you're an LLC but a single member LLC, it's the same. You're self-employed, so your losses will flow through to your personal taxes. If you're a multi-member LLC, your losses will flow through to the partners, and those will go on their tax returns. And then an S corp, that's like a corporate tax. So then your loss will go on your corporate taxes separately. And I was gonna say, tariffs, those are deductible, so yes, hopefully you guys are deductible. No?
For sure, yeah.
Sure, yes.
Yes.
So as independent brands, what financial habits have helped keep your businesses sustainable? We'll start with Kody.
Live cheap. Live cheap. Independent brand. So buy all your cool stuff in the beginning and pay it in full. We had a really good first year when the expenses were low and you weren't really thinking of expanding as big as you're going to get. So you had a lot of disposable income, and I bought a bed, I bought a car, I bought all my furniture because I never had, I worked from home my entire life, so I only have work equipment. I never had a couch or like a coffee table, so I bought all that. And when things got hard and I had to start expanding and putting more money into the business, I was glad I had a car and a bed. So buy your cool stuff early and then prepare to live cheap. The business is, like, to me, the only thing that matters. That's my life. I would live like a dog. It doesn't matter. But as long as the brand's healthy and my team's fed and my clothes are good, I'm okay with it. And save your money. Save your money.
And then same question for Evan, Téla. What was like a financial lesson that you guys, financial habits have helped keep your guys' business sustainable?
Definitely reinvesting in ourselves. And I was speaking about this a little bit earlier today, but genuinely, like, not living and feeding into the highlight reel of things, and like, you don't need to go to the section, you don't need bottles, I promise you. Like, you can really enjoy your life in other ways that, again, are very cheap and very sustainable. We both love to travel, so if there's anything, we would just rather save up for travel and to take our son places. That's like, that's paramount to us, his happiness. So it's, but a lot of the financial habits were reinvesting majorly from the start. When we got our first check, like, we were watching our, other peers, and it's like, they make a little bit of money and they go crazy, and it was like, we couldn't do that. We knew we couldn't do that. This was pre-Judah, pre our son. This was like, we had to make sure that we were sustaining ourselves, and we knew that we wanted to be something bigger than like a flash in the pan or like the coolest brand in Soho. Like we wanted to genuinely build something bigger and more global, and through that was just serious determination, cook a lot at home. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I would also say invest in help. Like, and when you have good help, pay them right, because it's hard to find, especially people that you trust. So for us, you know, we started with Taylor's brother Tavian, and he still works with us to this day. And at first we couldn't pay him much, but it's like now he's, you know, well taken care of. So it's just finding good help and making sure that those people are well taken care of, because me and Taylor always have this conversation. If something were to happen to either one of us, God forbid, it's like, okay, who's the next person who could step up in the business and, you know, kind of have reign? So definitely invest in good help and people around you.
Yeah, and also the habits were, like, to piggyback off of what he's saying, but the first things, as soon as we, on that topic of reinvestment, the first thing that we got was a legal team. And so we've got a lawyer, and then got a 3PL, third-party logistics, if y'all don't know what 3PL is. But yeah, shout out to Bergen, shout out to Dan.
And if you, for the group here, if you were starting today with limited funds and everything you know now, how would you approach building your brand differently?
I would do the same thing. Yeah, make everything in-house. That's the cheapest way to do it. Learn as much as you can. Stay as small as you can for as long as you can. Like I taught myself how to sew. I made our website, the very first one, not this one. And then bootstrap it. And, you know, ask for help. People are very nice. People think you have haters. Like, people want to help. Everyone I've ever met has been so kind and would do anything for you if it was just within their, you know, possibilities. So ask for help. Ask often. And show your stuff and surround yourself with like-minded people. Like, moving to New York was amazing. You know, I thought I'd wash out. And you come up here and like it's pretty easy. It's pretty nice. People were pretty cool. That's it.
I would make less things, I think. Yeah, I feel like I'm like a creative like hoarder. It's like in my brain, it's like stuff that I need to like hold on to and make. So it's like, yeah, I would definitely make less stuff to begin with.
And I think now too, that would have been like exactly that. Like early on is like to be able to build capital and to be able to have the funds to be able to do the fun stuff. But yeah, I mean, like now I feel like we're in that space now where it's like we're able to, but we did kind of do that though. We did kind of have a lot of things that were garnering a lot of financial security, I would say. But now it's really cool because we are able to do those things where we can exercise the art of it. I think.
But we also have like 1,000 yards of fabrics that we never use.
We love fabric in our spot, yeah. For sure.
So if anyone needs like fabric or like samples or
Come to the
anything, yeah,
office.
come meet us
Take it to
afterwards.
No,
We have a
no,
lot to
I'll come
offload.
grab it. It's okay. I want to add something too. I think if I could tell myself that, I would have gotten to manufacturing a lot quicker. I think because at some point you're battling the clock versus the stuff. You know, so like we were doing all handmade stuff in COVID time, right before COVID hit. We were making these shorts. And I would go like the opposite. I made more stuff, and I posted, and I worried less about margins. But I'm also
Agreed.
a little poorer than you. But I like posting all my stuff ahead of time, just showing it and selling it at any cost. You know, I mean, not any cost, but you know, I want it sold. I want someone to wear it. And I ended up like bogging myself down. I would work overnight. I think I was on a cycle one time. It was every other day I would sleep. I did that for like a year. Just making orders for like $5,000 a month maximum, and like I would have just got that outsourced and saved my time and moved on to another thing, and doubled up on that.
Question for Lisa: if you had to give one piece of advice to a founder trying to get their financial house in order for the first time, what would it be?
I would say definitely, especially related to taxes, make sure you track your income and expenses so that you don't leave anything out, and you make sure you save money so that you can invest back into your business.
All right. Like to thank the group for the conversation today. I think we'll take a few questions from the crowd.
So do you feel like the progression of the stuff that you put out was a reflection of your own personal style, or like evolving, or like vice versa? Do you feel like you had to like elevate your own style because of the stuff you were making, if that makes sense?
I mean, the most honest answer, I just never thought about it. But I think it's in hindsight more of me just growing up and expanding my design thought into not being what I want to wear, because I wear this every single day. I just bought 25 of these exact same T-shirts from my manufacturer. I made these pants. Same thing. I'll wear it in 10 years and today. So that's a boring collection. So I have to think about who I want it to be on, you know? And when you get bigger, I just want to make cooler stuff on different types of folks. I want to get into women's wear. I mean, I'm not going to wear a dress. So I think it's just more what you want to make. And I'm getting into, like, techniques and stuff. Like, big fashion's so cool. And I hate the speed of fashion. Like, the cycle every 6 months, you got to come out with, like, 1,000 things. But I do like how many things you get to test out, and that trends come and go. And if you mess up once, in 6 months, you'll be back on it. Yeah.
How hard is it to, I guess, not keep up with the Joneses? Because I know you explained about watching your peers, get a little bit of money, spend a lot of it, and for you to see it firsthand and kind of manage your money a little different. How do you advise someone in that case?
I feel like you have to delay gratification. And when you know your life has a calling or you see bigger things from yourself, it's like, all right, I know this person has like E-Class right now, and that's like cool, but it's like, nah, I want GLK 250 or something crazy.
Or
It's
how
like,
about a house?
yeah, so it's like, all right, if someone asked like a similar question earlier, it's like, okay, how do you know when to stop consuming and invest in yourself creatively? And I'm like, that was never a thing for me. It's like I always wanted to see ideas get out of my head, and I'd rather put money into my thoughts and my creativity than the next man's pocket, So for us, it's always been, we delay this, make sure certain things are set up for our son. And, God willing, that thing that I want, I could go purchase 10 of them in 10 years if I work super hard right now.
Yeah, and I just kind of gaslight myself and thinking I don't want it, If I ever get jealous, like, I don't want that, So that's easier.
I think also genuinely believing that you can do what these other people are doing. So, like, genuinely knowing that, like, okay, you see a product, again, talking about markup, they mark the hell out of this, that it's something, okay, looking into the materials of it, we're crazy. There's so many times we'll go up in the store and be like, I could make this. And then it's like, you start actually making it, or you start thinking about it a little more, about the process behind it, how somebody might have decided on those laces. Was that because it was a cost thing, or was it because of the art of it? Can I make this cooler than what? And so then that's how you start to like really exercise your footing, I think. But when it comes down to, I think it's also just discipline.
And also comparison is the biggest thief of joy.
100%.
So I try not to look at what other people have and just try to look inwards. And my parents always say we're rich in spirit. So it's like, I'd rather be rich in spirit than morally bankrupt.
I think we can take one more question from the crowd, if not. Oh, right. All right, cool.
So I'm very curious about working with department stores versus working independently. Like, what is the process in those two? Like
The process to fulfill for wholesale versus DTC?
Yeah.
It's not much different with that. You have, like, I can talk about from our warehouse. We ship both wholesale and DTC from our warehouse. So our warehouse is over in Jersey. We have all of our inventory over there. We don't have one single thing that's in our studio besides like pulls for, what a pull is? Like for a client. So we have like that, and that's the only thing or archive is the only thing that might be in our actual physical space where we work every day. But out of our wholesale, there's our warehouse. Jesus, out of our warehouse is 3PL, but there's wholesale and DTC. So if someone hits order from whodecideswar.com, it ships out of our warehouse. And then at the same time, if we have a 1,000-piece order that's going to, I don't know, any wholesale account that we have, they're packaging that the same way as though it's just one big order coming from our, one big DTC order, but it's landing at someone's doorstep. The only difference that we really go through is like commercial invoicing. customs landing. So it's like there's a couple more nuts and bolts to it all, but at the end of the day, it is quite similar to the process of someone's placing an order. It goes through the channels, it arrives at the door, it gets distributed.
But there's also, we'll take it back to like before we had all this, right? So our first boutique order, we asked them, all right, well, we need the money to make this stuff. Can you give us a deposit? So if you're starting out, you should ask for a deposit to make sure, like, okay, if they can't pay for it on the back end, you know that those things are paid for because.
Which we still do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, Saks and stores like this, they will give you a $300,000 order and be like, we'll pay you 30 days. Well, in their case, I'm not gonna say. Well, they'll pay you, in 30 days, right? But if they don't, then you're like, literally like in a bad place. So there's a risk because when you have DTC, you're making the clothes. I would say, pre-order is cool when you're starting out, but your customers, in this day and age, everyone wants something the minute they order it. So it's better to make your clothes and then have them ship, but then you're taking that risk if no one likes the product, but you should market it to the point where someone's gonna buy it. And with the DTC, with the B2B, there's the risk of them not paying on the back end. So it's really, as Kody said, you keep the community like close to the chest, and these stores, you use them for what they're worth. Yeah.
And really understanding that wholesale, to reiterate that, double down, that wholesale markets and those accounts, they want you to work for them, and you need to make it work for you.
I'd like to thank the group here for today's conversation. Let's give it up. And then for everyone here, you can join us at 45 grand for our party. Thanks to TurboTax as well for today's conversation. Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Lisa.
guys.
Thank you,
You're
TurboTax.
amazing.
Thank you, Intuit TurboTax. Thank you very much.